guys. So, spoilers, disclaimers, and then we'll talk. First off, I don't waste everybody's time and just come out and say God himself is not a myth. The way he's represented by a lot of people is like a superstition. And it is important to keep in mind I am trying to make friends with church people. And I think because this is a affiliated with a ministry hub of a website, a hub, a lot of people mistake that. Well, he's talking about God. Surely it's going to make me feel better about myself. No, it's not. That's not my goal. So, whatever fiery emails you feel like hammering out to lecture me about how I'm wrong, they get filtered just so you don't waste your time. I've mentioned several times before how much I enjoy working with people that don't go to church. Then living in the buckle of the Bible Belt in Oklahoma, surrounded by Christians. Before I moved down here, I thought it was going to be something cool, something unified. I didn't know much about the world, obviously. And then I get down here, I still didn't know much, but I was growing up, I was learning. And man, I'm glad God was able to establish himself in me first before I moved down here. Not to say I was all mature and everything, but you get a good seed started, it takes a lot to kill it. And just, there's so many people around here, older, younger, similar age, peers, just in general. They have a religious background. They want nothing to do with church. They don't talk much about God. They just stick with bashing church. And you gotta wonder why. And then I started getting to know more and more and more church people. And I figured out why. I don't blame these people for not wanting much to do with church. I don't know how long ago it was I was on here talking about how I listen to some good hard rock when I'm just working outside. And then somebody tried jumping all over me about it. I can't believe you call this kind of thing ministry or whatever. It's like, where did you go to learn about God? How much do you know about God? You're going to jump on people, you're going to judge people, you're going to build walls instead of find a way to build bridges, find a way to have something in common with people to convey God. You're just going to be an insular little Bible thumper and feel good about yourself that way instead of challenging yourself with God, pushing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, learning more. I read an article here recently talking about how it's usually, well, it's one of those sounds about right. A lot of vehement evangelicals oppose a lot of stuff that has scientific backing. Like it's been reinforced for years and years and years and years. And Christians are just like, no, that's not right. The Bible doesn't say anything about that. And it's like, church, these people are supposed to be ambassadors for God to this whole world, according to Jesus, according to the apostles, according to the Bible, are the same ones that are kicking everybody out, correcting everybody based on what they consider social expectations, trying to keep everything in the 1950s. The world is still evolving. Christians are not. And then they wonder why exactly people don't want to be a part of church. Somebody sent me an article a while back blaming, just citing statistics, right? Talking about how there's a consistent, steady, and rapidly growing decline in church attendance, and millennials are to blame. You know, people like 20 to 32 or something, I don't know what, it's somewhere around there. They're the ones to blame for this church decline. I couldn't even finish the article. That was just so baffling, so off-putting. And I wanted to send the author of that article, give them my what for. I just kind of just swallowed hard and let it pass. But you're gonna, when I was little, there was this cereal. I don't remember what it was called, but it tasted good. But whatever it was, it made me throw up. Haven't eaten it since. I think they still sell it. I look for it every once in a while and it crosses my mind at the store. But there's that aversion there. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just, you get that first taste of something, it reacts bad, and you're like, ooh. That's what has happened to a lot of millennials. A lot of people that don't want anything to do with church. Like, you listen to them talk, you get to know them, you hear their experiences and how they interpret life through their lens. You can see that there is some kind of religious background in there. There's at least some influence. And we're so busy judging these people that have an aversion to church because of what's happened to them in the past, that we're blaming them instead of looking at ourselves. I don't see that being any kind of commandment in the Bible. I've been kind of all over and ended up reading a bunch last night and just highlighting every other passage. So I might be a little bit bouncing around. But Romans 5:8. But God, so obviously, I'm not reading the whole context. But God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So we go this whole time, humanity does, not even knowing anything about God except don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And then we can't even do that right. So then all this grace God has sent Jesus in to just pick us up out of it while we still suck so bad at the basics that God gave us, just to abide, just to have some kind of closeness to him. So we're just here, wallowing in our sludge of sin, whatever you want to call it, separation from God. Jesus comes down anyway, gives it all up, reaches out to us at the expense of his own life. And then we talk about how much we know God, how much we love God. And then we build walls to keep people away from God through us. What kind of life is that? I do not want to be one of those people that God has to ask, that God expects an account of their life when they live like that. People like that are a disgrace. They're an embarrassment to God. Doesn't mean God don't love them. But they are not doing anything for God except making him look bad and making themselves look worse. It might be the other way around. It's incredibly obtuse to blame millennials for not wanting to come to church when all church is just some insular, outdated social network. Where's God? You sing about how much you love God and how much you like what God does for you. You listen to a lot of these songs, there's a whole lot of I and me and we in them now, looking at the lyrics. Which one are we worshiping, us or God? Who's the supporting actor in this one? Because it ain't supposed to be God. So we got the name Christians because we're supposed to be like Christ, right? Because that was what people called them way back when, because they acted Christ-like. So Jesus set this example for us, and all we're doing is justifying our own actions with out of context Bible verses. Disenfranchising women because of one verse in Ephesians. You ever piece together what Ephesians, like the context of the city? What were the issues that Paul had in that city? This whole slew of people tried to tear him apart, and they spent 2 hours saying, "Great is the goddess Diana of the Ephesians." 2 hours straight. So obviously, women were on a pedestal there, and it would have been pretty easy for a Jezebel to just jump into the church and get things all out of whack. So why don't we consider things like that before we just completely relegate the role of women in church and in Christianity? Is it because these entitled, crusty old white men are afraid to give up power? Then they got nothing to do with God anyway. Nothing. They built an establishment, maybe it started in the name of God, and then they put their face on it. Okay. Well, so all these people building walls instead of bridges. Why? You look around, Jesus said even back then, the fields are white for harvest. That doesn't mean he's a farmer. He was talking about like just meeting these people knowing that they need something, a self-awareness that they have a shortcoming, that they have a need, don't know how to fill it. And church is so judgmental of their flaws that the church isn't even giving them what they need. They got the antidote and they're withholding it. Monsters. So, what is there to be afraid of with pop culture? You listen to music, I mean, there's some stuff, yeah, you are not going to find God in it at all. But a lot of it, there's hints of God. Paul said in Romans, that all of creation, like at least has little smatterings of God in it. All of creation. Is distorted guitar a creation? Yeah, they didn't know about it in the Bible, but I would say it is something that has been created. And I can tell by the music I listen to. I'm so afraid of that because that didn't exist in the 1950s. That was devil music. Instead of looking for an avenue to reach people, we're trying to find ways to make ourselves feel better about ourselves at the expense of people that need God. What is the matter with that kind of thinking? Where's the freedom that Jesus said he came to bring? What is the gospel? When I first got saved, I was told it was the good news. Where's the good news? It's saying, don't do this, don't do that. Don't listen to this, don't eat that. Observe this day and observe that day, but this day is bad. Where's the freedom in that? Paul touched on Galatians, I think, Why are you paying any attention to people that say, well, don't touch, don't taste, don't handle? All that stuff is stuff that goes away, stuff that perishes with the using. Why don't people focus on what's eternal? So Jesus made himself a little lower than the angels, right? So he'd come down, swoop us up, and bring us up to his level. He got his hands dirty. We can say it that way. What's our excuse? It's not something I'm perfect at. And it's not something I do enough of lately, just because our focus is on other pressing things for the immediate time. But it is something I enjoy doing. It's supposed to take a lot to blacklist people. I remember when I was still really involved in this particular church I was going to, and I was one of the youngest people there. I dropped the average age by like 15 years. And then other people around my age started coming in, and a lot of them all knew each other. They all had some unifying things. But I saw them, and hey, that's cool. That's cool, man. I finally get some people around here I can connect with. Turns out I didn't really connect with them that much. I tried a couple times, and it wasn't really my thing. Find out later, they were actively telling people to avoid me. Do not talk to me. How would a person who doesn't know God react to that? When all they got is just base instincts. I'll piss on them. I want nothing to do with them. I'm done with this dump. And to be fair, I was eventually done. But it wasn't because of malice so much. It wasn't hurt. It wasn't something that drove me away from God, like it would with somebody that just doesn't have a relationship with God. Somebody that's using this network of people as a form of support, as crutches while they get to know God, while they learn to stand up on their own. And then these crutches, these support groups, all of a sudden start enforcing expectations. Well, you need to start doing this. You need to act this way. This is how a future minister acts. Oh, I thought I had liberty with Christ. I must not. I must have to meet certain social expectations that aren't really listed in the Bible. You look at it, all the laws fulfilled in this: love your neighbor as yourself. And that is throughout the New Testament. God had to go into detail in the Old Testament because they were not the brightest people. Like, I forget what I was reading earlier today, and then it cross-referenced something in Leviticus, I think, talking about don't uncover the nakedness of this person or that person. Like, I didn't remember exactly how it was relevant, but then I was curious how long it went on. It's like, don't uncover the nakedness of this. Like, it listed every single possible relative you could have: in-laws, step-family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, grandchildren, like individually. You got to break it down that much. You got to realize these people, it couldn't really be given the benefit of the doubt. But looking at church now, it's just depressing. Most church, it's just become some social thing. When did it stop being about serving people? Not all churches, just as a general statement, just play along. When you think of church, you don't think of meeting people's needs. You think of some uptight get together on Sunday mornings where people act like they're all friends, fulfilling their duty before they can go home and watch TV or mow the lawn or whatever. We're supposed to have liberty in Christ. Not feel this peer pressure about meeting standards that God doesn't have for us. Who cares about distorted music? What do the lyrics say? Are they something that can be used as a bridge to reach out to other people? Something that can help somebody turn a corner? There's a music group they haven't been around for a while now, but they got lyrics talking about, you gave me life, show me how to live. I like praying in tongues because it doesn't remind me of anything. Things like that. And the church can't be bothered with music like that because it's devil's music. What if they got so burned on church so early on, they don't understand what's being alluded to with lyrics like that? Like in Acts, and it was I haven't read Acts in a while. I think it was Philip, right, with the eunuch. Obviously, the eunuch was reading something out of Isaiah, I believe. But Philip was able to take that and say, hey, here is what he was referencing. Here's what was being alluded to. And then the dude got saved, the eunuch. That's what ministry is supposed to be, finding ways to meet people where they're at. Not making people jump through spiritual hoops, which I've been just as guilty of in the past. Just as guilty of. And a lot of those expectations, it's just pride. How many times, even just the Old Testament, has Israel just been like, oh, a shiny thing. And then God goes and lets them get the shiny thing and screw up their whole lives. And then he's like, hey, come on, here's what you do. You screwed up. Let me fix this. How many, just in each of our own lives, how many times has God done that for us? I lost count. When I just start feeling bottlenecked, I'll just start writing stuff down just because it helps. And if there's like a 4, 5, 6 month drought of writing stuff down, it always starts with, God, I don't know what happened. I guess I screwed up. I just haven't been doing things right and blah, blah. A lot of Christians that don't keep growing in God just get so afraid of allowing that liberty because it just means things are out of our hands. Probably like being a parent. You just gotta hope for the best. Yeah, you might be pretty invested in this person and then you just go screw up. It's hard to not take that personally. God wants to be a shield for that. We're supposed to be doing God's work for these people. God's the conduit. Like a one-way valve. That's what it's supposed to be like. But it is difficult when we put so much of ourselves into ministering and then just watch it get crapped on. But looking at the big picture, how much control do we really have anyway? Now, how many times Do we really look at the big picture? And there's been I'm going to take a drink of that eventually. I guess not, because I forgot where I was going with that. There's been all kinds of taboo topics with the church because of how it's just so commonly associated with sin, like alcohol. And so a lot of people just take the general consensus of religion that this is bad, and 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 this, and this, and this, and so on. You want a list of crap you can't do, read Leviticus. All of it. See how long it lasts. We can talk about social norms and how they were different back then. Now they're just, things have changed. Okay, things changed until they got to your comfort zone, and then they stopped changing because that's what makes you feel okay. I used to be judgmental of people that drank. When I was a pretentious little Bible thumper, we had these family get-togethers up in the mountains in the winter. It'd be a long weekend. I just get to hang out with family and stuff. And there'd be a whole lot of alcohol involved, like drinking games late into the night. And I had fun with all these people during the day, and then at night I was too good for that kind of thing. I couldn't weigh myself down with that kind of immorality while they were all having fun. Man, I don't know how some of those people put up with me. That's like 9 years ago now. Since then, God and I have found some middle ground. Okay, so I'm just going to assume the people I'm talking to here are all adults. Okay? I have drinks sometimes. What's it matter? Does it get to the point where I just lose control? Where I'm like outside of myself? No. Man, God gave me a couple spankings when I did cross that line, and I have since learned when to stop. But things in excess that lead to something bad, don't do them in excess. Gluttony is a sin. How many church people here talking about that? Especially during all their potlucks. But this freedom we're supposed to have. Well, let me see. I found a few verses. Galatians is a good one. I like reading through Galatians. Well, a lot of Paul's stuff, because he draws such a contrast between Old Covenant and New Covenant. Like, it's just straight down the middle. Especially with Galatians, people that got saved are getting lured back into the old ways. And I like to look at it as just in more contemporary terms. We're supposed to have liberty. We're supposed to have freedom in God and with God. And then we got religion bringing us back down, weighing us down with don't touch, don't taste, don't handle. And not even leaving any room for this liberty that that Jesus died to bring us. Not to get that religious about it. It's like they're just casting aside God's sacrifice way back when just to maintain control, instead of building and creating and harboring an environment that's conducive to these people learn how to get to know God and develop and mature and grow up on their own so they can stand on their own 2 feet apart from this establishment or this minister. If we're supposed to go reach all the world, we ain't going to do it in one streamlined way. It's not going to be just this one path. That's how we get everywhere, is on this one path. That's stupid. That is so stupid. There's so many ways I want to go with this. Going back to the beginning, Romans 14:1, the beginning where I said, receive one who's weak in the faith, but not to disputes over doubtful things. So, what is doubtful in the Bible? The crucifixion. What's come of it? The role of the Holy Spirit. What God expects from us. What our destiny is. What our destination is. That's not left up for debate. Not in the Bible. So what is? What are social expectations imposed on Christians that don't really have much to do with the Bible? I see you have tattoos. You're not welcome here. We're not going to say that, but we're going to alienate you with our looks and our disapproving stares and our exclusion of you from all these social things. Oh, you can only afford 2 different outfits, and you've been wearing them for the same 3 years you've been coming. You're not good enough to fit in with us. Oh, I saw you spent a few days in prison for beating up your squeeze. There's no room for forgiveness here. So, receive one who is weak in the faith, but not to disputes over doubtful things. Verse 13. Therefore, let us not judge one another anymore, but rather resolve this, not to put a stumbling block or a cause to fall in our brother's way. So what does that mean? That means trying to get stumbling blocks that we all have managed to put in our own way between us and God, just through patterns of thinking, ways of life, decisions we made in the past. We can all do that well enough to ourselves. We don't need other people's help with it. So why aren't we bearing with the scruples of one another? Helping each other get these things out of our way, encouraging one another like the way we're supposed to be unified in the body of Christ, with the mind of Christ, not with the mind of what our pastor thinks or what our church has deemed okay. The New Testament, it gets explicit about some stuff, but it's left a lot more open for interpretation than the Old Testament when it comes to living for God. The difference is now we got the Holy Spirit that allows us to be less uniform from our brothers and sisters in God. We all want the same thing, but we can all go about getting it differently. Not everybody likes the same kind of music I do. Not everybody likes the same kind of movies I do. Not everybody likes video games, especially as much as I do. I'll be in my wheelhouse, you be in yours. It doesn't mean we're working against each other. If you got to count the notches on your belt, you don't know what humility is. And what you're doing, if it leads people to God, That's almost by accident more than anything else. Not to put a stumbling block or a cause, a reason, a way to fall in our brother's way. Don't touch, don't taste, don't handle. Romans 13, 8 to 10. Owe no one anything except to love one another, for he who loves another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, don't commit adultery, don't murder, don't steal, don't bear false witness, like by saying God likes this and God hates that when it's not in the Bible. Don't covet. And if there's any other commandment, all are summed up in this saying, namely, love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor, and therefore love is the fulfillment of the law. It's funny. Neighbor, he's not specifying in that passage whether he's a Christian or not. This neighbor could be a tranny. I can't love a person like that. Oh, okay. Romans 14:19. Therefore, let us pursue the things which make for peace, and the things by which one may edify another. I got a small sample size of LGBTQs because I don't have that many friends anyway. But some of them, man, they just are so caught up in their emotions. Some of them are the most chill people I have met. Super cool. Comfortable with themselves. Comfortable with me knowing I'm a Christian. And we can be cool with each other. I don't gotta jump up on their desk and scream at them about how they're going to hell. Something in the Bible about not putting a cause to stumble in brother's way. Somewhere in there. Just extending this dog. Just extending God's love, God's peace, God's comfort with poor choices from other people, from me. How many times has God still loved me despite me being an idiot? I'm not going to tell you because I am not sure either. It's a lot. So this grace we get from God, that God tells us to pay it forward. Who are we paying it forward to? James talks about when you throw a party, invite the people that can't pay you back. So who are we paying these things forward to? Who are we paying this grace forward to, this love? These gifts of God, whether it's tangible, emotional, spiritual, whatever. And why aren't we asking these questions more of ourselves and of the people we allow to minister to us? Why don't we start raising our expectations and figuring out ways to involve people that need God, that are looking for God without knowing really that God is what they're looking for, because they got these scars from church and they ain't looking in that direction for help anymore. But it's their fault they got those scars. It's their fault they're not coming to church anymore. Surely we can find ways to exonerate ourselves because we're so righteous and holy and we love God. People like that are so full of crap. I said at the beginning, it ain't my way to focus on Christians feeling better about themselves. That's something that God does for me consistently, yeah, but he also leaves it with a challenge too. I was feeling kind of bottlenecked again this past week. So I started writing down some stuff. And God came through again. It's okay to be scared when you're digging this stuff out of you. It's okay to be scared when you're learning how to forfeit control of your own life, how to forfeit this hope that you're putting in things that you know you can attain, that you don't need me for. Set those aside. You look at the hope, you look at the goals that I'm trying to impart to you that you need me for. Let that be your hope. And realize that it's okay to be scared while you're learning to adjust to that way of thinking, while you're learning to transition into that way of life. There's been a lot of times where I get so caught up in self-preservation that I just go overboard in correction and don't let it balance out with encouragement, with hope. And really, that's just pride. That's where it comes from. That's where that self-preservation comes from. Putting yourself before putting yourself before other people. The landscape of God's church is changing. God had to deal with certain eras, certain ways. You think of how God had to deal with people differently even 50, 60, 70 years ago, before the advent of mass communication. And now we're so busy calling future tech the devil and labeling it as some kind of just demonic fear-mongering thing that we forget to put it within the scope of God. Are these things being developed? Are they a part of creation? Is God evident in all creation, like what Paul said? We're not supposed to be afraid of stuff. And if you are, it's time to figure out why and get that worked on with God. We're supposed to have freedom and boldness and kindness and joy and peace and this overarching love. The real kind of love, the kind that just cares about people just to care. Not keeping tally, not looking at possible ramifications. Is this person going to crap on me? I'm going to keep them at arm's length. That's something I am the most guilty of. I think that's one of my worst traits right now. This guy's a loose cannon. I don't want anything to do with him. This guy sucks at his job. I don't have anything to say to him. I got stuff to work on too. The difference between us to other people and God to us is that God ain't so quick to give up on us. He'll give us our time to go run off and play in the mud and screw off and do whatever. Every once in a while, he'll be like, hey, you ready to come back in yet? I'm like, no. All right. I mean, sometimes, yeah, we take it to an extreme. And God's like, hey, you're going to die if you keep this up. I'm like, whatever. But a lot of times, God's got that eternal kind of patience with us. We get so focused on ministering from our own power that we forget to to allocate the attributes of God that God has given to us as he tries to minister through us to these people. It's supposed to be God in us reaching these people. And then these people come back and crap on us one way or another. God's still got our back. God's still our hedge, our covering, our protection. What do we have to be afraid of? And if we are afraid, why? Don't know God well enough? We like other things more than we like God? Whatever. It's not a Christian's job to diminish other people. What we're supposed to do is find, however faint, a speck of God, of hope, is in a person, and bring that out and amplify it, enlarge it, empower it, encourage it, nurture it, grow it, however. And it takes quite a bit for a person to not even have a speck of that. So just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean you can go throw that label of hopelessness and worthlessness on them. You start doing that casually, you're going to have a real sobering chat with God. Anyway, love you guys. Peace.